You didn't find this by accident. This message must be meant for you, because this story asks a question every human being eventually has to answer. You'll see that underneath the headline is a deeper question, and what the Torah, Gospel, and Quran say about this might surprise you. Common news if you want God's take on today's headlines. 8 people took off into the sky and never came home. Right now, most people are looking at photos of wreckage, photos of smoke, photos of a military aircraft. But here's what people are missing. Somewhere, 8 families were expecting a phone call that never came. Somewhere, 8 families woke up expecting an ordinary day. And now everything is different. People are divided over a lot of things these days. Politics, war, military spending, national priorities. But here's the part nobody agrees on. Why does it take tragedy for us to remember the value of a human life? And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Most people see a B-52 bomber. Families see names. Friends see faces. Children see someone who isn't coming home. So, what does God say when service and sacrifice collide? According to reports, 8 people died when a B-52 bomber crashed shortly after takeoff near Edwards Air Force Base in California. One moment, it was another flight, another mission, another day at work. Then, something went wrong. Within moments, lives were lost. The images are dramatic. Smoke rising into the sky. Emergency crews responding. Burning wreckage. Tragedies like this often become stories about machines, aircraft, investigations, mechanical failures, military readiness. Yet underneath every headline is something much harder to talk about. Human loss, parents, spouses, friends, children, dreams, memories, entire futures that suddenly stopped. Still here? Type Amen if this story hit you. I read these. This story hits people because it forces us to confront something we spend most of our lives trying not to think about. Life is fragile. No amount of training can eliminate that reality. No amount of strength can eliminate that reality. No amount of success can eliminate that reality. And this is where faith steps in. Because long before airplanes existed, humanity was already wrestling with questions about courage, sacrifice, mortality, and what makes a life meaningful. Here's what's interesting. The Torah never pretends that life is predictable. Instead, it repeatedly reminds people that life itself is a gift. Deuteronomy 30:19 says, "Today I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live." Most people miss this part. The verse is not only about survival, it is about recognizing the value of life itself, the preciousness of every day, the preciousness of every person. Another passage says in Psalm 90:12, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." This might challenge how you see this tragedy, because the point isn't to become afraid of death. The point is to become aware of life, to remember that every conversation matters. Every relationship matters. Every day matters. Because none of us know how many remain. Christianity approaches this question through love and sacrifice. Jesus says in John 15:13, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." Now this doesn't mean every death is identical, but it does reveal something profound. Human beings deeply admire sacrifice. We honor people who serve. We honor people who protect. We honor people who accept responsibility greater than themselves. Because something inside us recognizes that love often costs something. Another passage says in Matthew 5:9, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." Most people miss this part. Service is not only about fighting. Service is about protecting, building, supporting, helping others live safely. And that kind of sacrifice matters. Islam speaks powerfully about dignity and courage. The Quran says in Surah Al-Imran 3:185, "Every soul will taste death, and you will only be given your full compensation on the day of resurrection." At first, that sounds heavy. But here's what's interesting. The verse isn't meant to create despair. It's meant to create perspective. Every human life is temporary. Every human life matters. Every human life is accountable before God. Another passage says in Surah Al-Mulk 67:2, He who created death and life to test you as to which of you is best indeed. Notice what it says. Not the rich, not the strongest, not the most famous. Best indeed. Best in character. Best in how we treated others. Best in how we lived. That changes everything. When you step back and look at all three traditions, a powerful pattern appears. The Torah reminds us life is precious. The Gospel reminds us sacrifice has meaning. The Quran reminds us life is temporary and accountable. Different traditions, different histories, yet all three arrive at a similar truth. Human life matters more than achievements, more than titles, more than headlines. This is where it gets uncomfortable, because modern culture often celebrates success more than character, fame more than faithfulness, accomplishment more than humanity. But tragedy has a strange way of stripping all that away. Nobody is asking how many social media followers these people had. Nobody is asking what car they drove. Nobody is asking how much money they made. People are asking something much deeper. Who exactly were they? Who loved them? Who will miss them? It's easy to honor human life when everything is going well. It's easy to be compassionate. Until it costs you something. Until loss becomes personal. Until grief arrives at your own door. That is when humanity is tested. Now let's bring this back to you. Not the military. Not the aircraft. Not the investigation. You. When was the last time you truly appreciated the people in your life? When was the last time you told someone you loved them without being prompted by tragedy? Who are you assuming will always be there? Have you ever noticed how quickly we take ordinary days for granted? This story is not really about a bomber. It is not really about a crash. It is about something every human being eventually faces. The reality that life is fragile, and because life is fragile, it is valuable. What you do with the time you still have, what you would do if you knew your time was limited. Because the truth is, none of us are promised tomorrow. Perhaps that is why all three faiths repeatedly call us back to gratitude, back to compassion, back to purpose, back to love. The real question isn't how those 8 people died. The real question is how the rest of us choose to live. Every headline is a human being. Every tragedy is someone's world collapsing. See the person, not just the situation. And maybe tonight, take a moment to appreciate someone who is still here. If this helped your mind today, sub and share so you and your friends don't miss tomorrow's verse. And don't forget to head over to our YouTube page for more content like this.